Welcome again to 495 Metro. Joining us is our co-host, Ed Richardson. Good afternoon, Ed.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm your host, Trudy Richardson. During our last segment, we discussed change and some steps to put your visions, your dreams, and your goals into action. At the end of the segment, I pointed out that one of the components in not fulfilling your dreams is fear. We can agree that fear often comes to us and either washes away our dreams, visions, and goals, or it paralyzes us. Ed proceeded by saying this happens because of the stories we tell ourselves. What story are you telling yourself? We both agree the story should be honest and forthright. This leads me to a quote I recently read by Dr. Carl Gustav Jung, a leading Swiss psychiatrist and psychotherapist who died in 1961. He said, and I agree, our visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. And to paraphrase it, to make it personal, he went on to say the person who looks outside dreams and the one who looks inside awakes. I'm sure as you're listening to this discussion, your brain is probably saying, okay, what does that mean? Dream, awake, those are words. And how are these words going to help me go to school, get a job, lose weight, be more friendly, move forward to obtain any of our goals? So Ed, as a life coach, what methodology or advice would you give to these inquiring minds that want to know how to move forward with their life?
Well, I think the first thing that a person should do is to begin keeping their own history. And by that I mean they need to start a diary. Now that diary could be something that you record daily on your phone, just a few notes about what you're planning to do that day or how you're feeling that day, or just something to record goals and ideas as they come to mind. Some people are more comfortable writing things down. So maybe you buy a journal or a notebook where you capture your ideas and you begin writing things down that way. For other people, it may be getting on their computer and typing out things, or on their iPad and talking out things. But you've got to start your own history. And a funny thing happens when you start writing things down or capturing ideas. You get your inside out. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about how do you get started? This is something everyone can do. It's not hard, but you do need to be consistent every day. If you're going to have a destination, you've got to know where you've started and you've got to track your progress. And it all begins with writing a diary. So that's the first thing a person can do. Sounds simple, but it's very powerful.
It's not simple, especially for a person like myself who doesn't like to write things down and who doesn't like. I get bored very easily, so writing stuff down, you do it over and over and over again, and after a while I shove it aside and I'm not doing it anymore. But I can say that the value of writing stuff down and sticking to that is that you do not get off of task. You constantly see your goals before you. You consistently see where you came from, where you've gone. You can start scratching stuff off. You can see evidence of your progress. And when we were talking, and you mentioned one word, which was an idea. And how can one? Everybody has a dream or a vision or goal, or they have an idea of what they want to do and where they want to go. But how can they take that idea? And then how can they begin to create good habits to go with that idea to move forward?
Once you've started, first of all, you have to capture the idea. And I'm afraid there's no easy way to capture the tiger, if you will, the idea. You have to trap it, you have to stalk it, you have to capture it. An idea may come to you to invent something, or to write a book, or to create something. And the only way that I know that you can capture it is to write it down or speak it into existence, to remind yourself of what it is that what that thing is that you've captured. And then you have to begin to question your idea. Thankfully, we have some very easy questions we can ask about our idea. What is it? Who is it going to affect? Who is it for? When am I going to do it? Where am I going to do it? Am I in the right place to execute this idea, or do I need to move across country? Why do I want to do this? Is it part of my passion? Is it to create income for another idea? Is it in support of someone else? But the old questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how, those questions can be applied to the idea, capturing the idea, and then fleshing the idea, and then out, and then writing down what you've discovered. So those are two things that the average person can do that don't require, a great deal of expertise, but at the same time it'll get you started.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go off script a minute for people who like to have something concrete in front of them. Okay, I'm coming to you. I am an author. And I say to you as a life coach, look, I've been writing and I just can't seem to get my work past the writing stage. It's written, it looks perfectly pretty. How can I go from here? What can I do to go to the next stage? What direction would you point me in?
Well, if I were coaching you as a writer, one of the things that I would do is I would give you an assignment. And that assignment would be to pick out 10 of the most admired writers, writers that you admire, you personally. They don't have to be New York Times bestsellers or anything like that, but they would have to be people that you admire. And the assignment would simply be to contact those people. Figure out a way to contact those people, write them, call them, email them. We're in a day where we have social media. Maybe they have a Facebook page and you can contact them. And then you can begin to ask them what they do. How do they overcome writer's block? Where do they get their ideas from? Ideas come from many different places. They come when you're walking your dog or playing with your cat or listening to music or in the shower or doing dishes or planning, or working in the yard. Ideas can come to you from many, many different ways. But the whole thing is to be aware that the ideas will come so long as you have a passion. So as your life coach, I'd say, Trudy, here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to contact your 10 most respected or best writers or people you'd like to know and have a friendship with. I want you to make a list of specific questions you're going to ask them, and I want you to do this in the next 30 days. I'd give you a time period to do that. And then hopefully you would be bold enough to just move forward with that little assignment.
And that's what I was going to say to you next. If I say to you, okay, it sounds wonderful. It sounds like opportunity. It sounds like you're pointing me in the right direction. But, of course, there's always got to be that but.
What would it be?
And my but would be, but I'm uncomfortable contacting people I don't know. And I really don't know what to say. Emails or Facebooking these people, it's not, face-to-face contact, but I'm still, there's just still some fear there, and that fear comes from rejection. So how could you motivate me to push myself out of that place that's paralyzing me, that's got a hold over me?
Someone once said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Now, there are a number of ways that you can get beyond that fear, which is very real, and that's a really good observation, a really good thing to bring up to people who might be listening to us today. Maybe they don't feel confident enough to just set out and just, in this particular question, write or contact 10 people. Maybe you have a friend that can help you. If I were your coach, I would say, okay, let's sit down and do it together. I'll do the first one, and then you watch what I do, and then you'll do the second one. Deal?
Deal.
Okay, so we'd sit down and we'd walk together until you, develop the confidence to see that it's really not that big a deal. These people are human beings just like you are. And as long as your motives are pure and you're not a stalker, You can, people will respond. Now, on the other side of that, suppose you do get rejected. You've got to think in advance on how you're going to feel and how you're going to respond. Suppose you contact all 10 of them and all 10 of them say, go pound sand, go kick rocks. Then as your coach, you come back to me and say, hey, look, I tried what you said and I didn't have any success. All 10 of them told me to go pound sand. What do you think I would tell you?
Knowing you as I do, you'd probably tell me to choose 10 more people.
That's exactly what I would do, because we know that there are examples of people who have done great things in life by just being persistent and just grinding. It's said that Thomas Edison, a great inventor, found 9,999 ways that a light bulb wouldn't work. His lab burned down. I mean, you go through history and you begin reading about people who just would not give up. Sooner or later, you're going to talk to somebody and they're going to inspire you. They may become a lifelong friend. They may become a mentor. But as your coach, I'm always going to push you in the direction in which I believe you want to go based on the conversation that we've had.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are 2 points that I want to talk about, and that's overcoming obstacles.
Okay.
Because most of us, when we start out to do something, usually what happens with most people, they don't deal with how to, they deal with the obstacles that they don't have in front of them. They're not educated enough. They don't know the right people. How do you overcome obstacles?
You have to accept the fact that obstacles exist. They are going to be there. The obstacles are the barriers that show you what you need to do in order to become successful in your quest for whatever your goal might be. Standing between you and the thing that you want most in life is that obstacle, that challenge. And once again, you can use questions to help you to understand how to overcome that obstacle. But we can talk more about that.
So the obstacles. And the other thing that you had pointed out when we were talking about, I guess it goes to the point of not giving up, of recognizing, I guess, beforehand that you are going to have obstacles. You're going to have your highs and lows. You're going to have your good days and your bad days. But in that, as a person who knows they have this gift inside of them, they know they have something that they want to do in their life, how not to fall more on the what I can't do, more in terms of what we can do.
Yes. And I think that you're right on point there. The main thing is that people have to make up their mind to just do it, no matter what. No excuses. We're going to man up. We're going to put on, women, you're going to put on the big girl pants and you're going to just go for it. Mm-hmm. You just cannot accept not trying, to quote Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I know when we started on our journey of life coaching and pushing ourselves forward and doing some of the things that we've done in our life, do you remember the little cards, the 3x5 cards we had?
Yeah. And
we would write affirmations on them?
Yep.
How much does that play a part in helping you to move forward?
Well, affirmations work differently for different people. The act of writing something down over and over again until it gets into your head and into your heart is a good thing. It requires consistency. It is a little bit boring because you have to do it every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, until it finally sticks. Something finally kicks in and says, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Once you have it, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get that affirmation into your heart. But then you set it aside, and before you know it, you'll look up a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year later, and you'll find that the thing that you really wanted to do, your passion, somehow or other it's manifested. Somehow or other it's fleshed out. Whether it's a new job that you want, whether it's a new career that you want, whether it's a new house that you want to buy, whether it's a new hobby that you wanted to develop. Life is to be enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And not everything is always about making $1 billion. Sometimes it's just, creating an environment for yourself where you just enjoy living?
This discussion is motivating, but we have to take a break. 4:95. We'll be right back.
How can you keep your wealth in good health? How can you protect yourself? Each week, the hosts and guests provide education about wealth empowerment, tax laws, healthcare basics, retirement strategies, money management, and much more.
Welcome back to 495 Metro. We're having an interesting discussion on looking into oneself to effect change in our lives. So, Ed, you were saying when we took a break, we were talking about affirmations. And one of the things I find exciting when we did those affirmations, and for me, I had 3x5 cards everywhere. I had them in the bathroom, I had them in the bedroom, I had them in my car, I had them at work, I had them in my purse. And I read these things, and not only did I have the affirmations, but I had a journal. Because you and I sat down and we made a long plan of things that we wanted to accomplish that year. And when I would take out the journal and I'd look at what we check off, and then I'd look at our affirmations and how they, I guess, inspired us to move forward. So how would you suggest to people that they start their own journal to get themselves going so they can stay on track? Because it's so easy to say, this is what I want to do, but then life happens. I know, I'll just give an example from me. I've been on this diet weight plan. It's been a year now, and I'm still on it. But I know, for instance, I had some health challenges, so that stopped me from going to the gym, and so I had to really be strict with myself on my diet. And but the gym part, I could have done some other things that were not as strenuous, but I felt myself doing nothing. How can you prevent yourself from saying, well, this isn't happening, so I'm not going to do any of it, and getting off course?
That is a big question, and it requires, I think, as a simple answer. I'm not sure I can give it to you, but I will preface what I'm about to explain by saying that people need to understand that this is their life. This is their one time that they're walking the earth. And I really believe that a person should find happiness in that one time in walking the earth. And that one time walking the earth may not have anything to do with making a ton of money. It may be having a successful relationship. It could be, any number of things. Maybe experiencing life as an adventure. At one time I thought I wanted to climb Mount Everest until I started looking at YouTube, which got me out of that.
And the stories that go with it.
I don't want to be frozen on the side of a mountain. I just don't want to do that.
But I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. You said about it may not be $1 million. I read something somewhere that if you have a passion, don't do it for the money. Do it for the love of it. And if you do it for the love of it, I truly believe that the money will come.
Now, to your point, that's not to say if you want to make $1 million that you should say, well, I think a person has to make that decision for themselves. But in answer to your question, once you have decided what it is you want to do, and this can change, you may decide, one thing at a time. You may have several different things you want to do in any given time period. But once you decide what you want to do, the affirmation comes into play. Because the affirmation is really a short story. It's a short declaration of something that you do not yet possess, but that you intend to possess. And what the affirmation does is it just simply reminds you of what you're striving for on a daily basis. That's why you write it on the 3x5 cards, or you memorize it and repeat it to yourself several times a day. And what you will find that will happen, if I'm coaching you, then I would say to you that your affirmation, your basic affirmation will remain solid, but the things around your affirmation may change. So you have to be ready to be flexible so that as you get into your journey, as you go into your task, you find yourself saying, okay, well, now I've learned a little bit more about this thing that I want to do, and so I'm going to adjust my affirmation. I may have to write out the affirmation and start making some different adjustments, telling myself a little bit of a different story. What coaches really do is they take the player, whether it be in sports or whether it be as a life coach, as a teacher or whomever. A student comes to them and says, listen, I want to be X. And what the coach's job is to take a look and help that person take an inventory of what they have. What are the resources that you have right now? And then let's see if we can't put those resources together in such a way as you can build toward this thing that you want to do. And then what the coach does is they stay on you. If you've been working 1 hour at this thing that you want to do, the coach wants you to work 2 hours. If you've been working 2 hours, the coach wants you to work 3 hours. And then the coach doesn't want you to do it haphazardly. The coach wants to see results within a given period of time. So that way you don't become frustrated or you don't become stale in the pursuit of your goal. And when you want to quit, the coach reminds you of your passion and continues to push you so that you're not giving up. So to your point, sure, you have a goal. You've been working diligently at your goal for a year. I know you're going to complete the goal, but you've had little bumps and challenges along the way. And people have to understand that's normal. That's part of the process. The bumps and the challenges, if they were not there, if it was that easy, everybody would do it. Nobody would need a coach. We could just go live and do whatever we want to do.
Because sometimes I think it's just me, but I think other people will attest to this too, that when you start something new, something always seems to come up that will try to redirect your attention, throw you off course, to keep you from it's almost like, I feel like it's almost like when I verbalize something that I am going to do X.
Well, first of all, you're very right. And I think what most people may want to consider is who they tell their dream to, if they tell their dream at all. I think what people have to do is they have to keep it a personal secret until they can begin to see things flesh out. Because to me, it's just life. You say to life, I want to do X. I want to become a watchmaker. And in order to become a watchmaker, you have to go to school at some prestigious place. And next thing you know, life tells you, you don't have the money. You don't have the connections. What do you want to be a watchmaker for? There's no other watchmakers in your family. What are you, crazy? You can't even afford a watch. Now you want to go make them? So, life has a way of testing you. But every time you pass a test, just like in grade school, every time you pass a test, you get closer to completing that grade, and you get closer to going to the next grade until ultimately, guess what? You've graduated. And that's just how life is.
And that brings me to, we've talked about ideas, habits, affirmation, which brings me to the plan. And one of the things that in planning, would you suggest that people make a weekly plan, a monthly plan, a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan? How do you go about prioritizing your dream, your vision, your goals, so you can take one step at a time, so you don't feel like you're so overwhelmed that you're not going anywhere? You have the beginning, but you don't have the middle, and you have where you want to be, and you look up and it seems like you're just swimming around and going back and forth doing straight laps, not going anywhere. How do you set up a plan so you can make yourself feel like you're moving forward towards your goal?
I once, University of Maryland basketball player John Lucas opened up a rehab center for guys who were experiencing, substance abuse. And I thought he had a very profound mantra that he used. And he was basically saying to people who were struggling in those areas, progress, not perfection. So I think the first thing the person has to do is look in the mirror and understand, I need to make progress. I'm not going to be perfect. There's no straight line to success. It's a zigzag. You know what I mean? It's like watching the stock market. It goes up, and it goes down, and it goes up, and it's going down. And that's kind of the way life works when you're pursuing a goal. So the first thing that you have to do is that you have to be in the game. That means you have to be consistent. You have to determine how much consistency you can apply. Some people work a full-time job, they've got kids, they've got schedules, they've got all kinds of things going on. Other people have more time. But if you can devote 3 hours a week to your plan, to your goal, to your adventure, to the thing that you want to do, your passion, whatever, then make it 3 hours a week and make it every week. And don't skip a week. Don't let anything come in your way. The second thing is that you have to say, if I'm going to devote X amount of time, you have to make sort of like a timeline. If I'm going to devote X amount of time every week or every day or every other day, however you plan it out, by the end of 2 weeks, I expect to have come from point A to get to point B. You have to be able to gauge your progress. What does progress look like to you? Are you learning a new language? How do you know that you've progressed in learning that new language? Are you going to be able to know more greetings, et cetera, et cetera? And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to celebrate your progress. When you hit those milestones, go treat yourself to a latte, or go treat yourself to celebrate what you're doing and positively reinforce what you're working toward.
Mm-hmm. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure, and I hope our audience has enjoyed the views we brought forth today. I hope they're motivated, that they find their niche in their life. We're doing all of this to encourage people because we are life coaches. We like to see people fulfilling their dreams, doing better. So we hope what we discussed today will help you find true contentment so that you can get to the place where you want to be, so you can be the person you were meant to be. Thank you for viewing us today.